Hey, it's Nate here, and welcome back to Guitar Foundations. This is going to be a really fun video for you because you're going to be playing your very first song. I wrote a little pop rock tune in the style of the Proclaimers that uses everything you've learned about your fretting hand, your strumming hand, and your knowledge of the notes on the strings, the E and A strings so far, to play through this pop rock song. And the cool thing about this is once you have it down, it's going to help you get to the point where you'll be comfortable enough moving your power chords around and doing a little bit of strumming so you'll be able to play a lot of different songs that use power chords. Before we get into this, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps to get the word out about this Guitar Foundations course. And if you have a friend who you know has been wanting to learn how to play the guitar, share it with them as well. It'll be a great starting point for them to get into it. Also, if you want a more cohesive experience to go through all these lessons, you can head to natesavage.com and create your account to go through this course there. It's completely complimentary. You can also sign up for private lessons if you feel like something you need, if you're struggling with something in particular, and you can pick up your copy of the ebook, the companion book that goes with the Guitar Foundations. Okay, the first thing that I need to address with you in order for you to play this song is the fact that you don't have to have your root note of whatever power chord you're playing on the low E string. You can have it on the A string too. So far we've been playing things like this, just moving our power chord shape around to locations with our root note on the low E string. We can also take that same idea and apply it to a root note on the A string. So one of the power chords we're going to be learning or using in this song is an E power chord. And we're not going to use this one with the open E and the second fret of the A string. What we're going to do is put our root note on the A string on the 7th fret. And we're not going to get into memorizing the notes on the A string yet. We'll get into that a little bit later, but we are going to use this one location for a power chord with a root note on the 5th string. So it's the exact same shape, exact same principle. You just put your index finger on the 7th fret of the A string. Same formula, up 2 frets over 1 string. So your 3rd finger or 4th finger, whichever one you want, is on the 9th fret of the D string there. And this brings up the huge topic of chord movability that we'll get into a lot more later on in this course and that you'll continue to learn about as you learn more and more about the guitar. But you can use that shape anywhere with your root note on the A string. Just be aware of that. And this is the location, this E, that we're going to be using to play through this song. This song is, in fact, in the key of E major. And we'll get into more about what keys are when we get into the music theory part of Guitar Foundations later on. But just realize that E is kind of our home base. And I just want to go through all the rest of the power chord locations for this song for you as well, so you can just get them down and start thinking about them. We have the E that we just did. So E power chord, make sure your index finger is on the 7th fret of the A string and your 3rd finger or 4th finger is on the 9th fret of the D string. Next you have an A power chord with your root note, index finger here on the low E string, 5th fret, 3rd finger up 2 over 1, 7th fret of the A string. Okay, next you have a B power chord. And you're just going to move up to where your index finger or your root note is on the 7th fret of the low E, and your 3rd finger is on the 9th fret of the A. And the last power chord location you need for this song is just a C sharp power chord, and that is going to be on the 9th fret, root note on the 9th fret of the low E, 3rd finger or 4th finger, whichever one you want, on the 11th fret of the A string. So what I'd recommend doing before you even start learning the parts to the song is just moving those power chords to those locations to where you can go right to them and know exactly where they are. And you can even call them out by name. So E, A, B, C sharp. And what you're also going to have to do here is make sure you work on your aim with your picking hand. So when you're playing that E power chord with the root note on the 5th string, you're only hitting the A and D strings. You're not hitting that low E string at all. I'm even muting the low E string a little bit, brushing my index finger right here up against it just a little bit. But just play that and then go to the A, and go to the B, go to the C sharp. This is like ground 0 for being able to play the song. Okay, that takes care of the chord locations for your fretting hand. As far as the strumming pattern for the song, I'm keeping it as simple as possible so you can really concentrate on moving those chords around and staying aware of where you are in the layout of the song. So our strumming pattern is nothing more than a straight quarter note strumming pattern, just like this. So if you start off on, let's say, your E power chord and just play 1, 2, 3, 4. Just 4 quarter notes. That is the main strumming pattern we're using throughout this entire thing. So if you can play a straight quarter note strumming pattern using all downstrokes, you're already good to go. If you need to work on it a little bit, now is the time to do that. Now we can actually get into learning this song. I've laid it out on something called a chord chart with slash notation. And all that is, it's a more concise way of writing out sheet music when you don't need to have as much information on there, like all the tab or single notes that are in a melody or something like that. And you'll see it's just a bunch of slash marks with quarter notes that are like unto quarter notes. They just like fill in slashes. The same thing as quarter notes. That's all you really need to worry about. Usually when you see a chord chart like this with a bunch of slashes on it, unless there's a specific rhythm written out, it's usually left up to your discretion to play whatever fits the style of the music. But in this case, we're going to follow what's written there exactly and play all quarter notes throughout the entire song. Okay, let's get into the verse of the song. And I should mention that there are only 2 real actual parts to this song, verses and choruses, and it just kind of alternates between the 2. More about that when we get into the actual layout of the song. But the verses of the song only use 3 power chords: the E, the A, and the B. So it's pretty simple. And the energy here is a little bit lower compared to the chorus, so just keep that in mind so you can fit your style to the song of what's actually going on with the jam track. By the way, there are jam tracks available for you too. One of them is at 100 beats per minute to help you kind of start out slow, and then there's another one at 130 beats per minute to kind of kick things up and fit the style of the tune a little bit more. The layout of the verse, here's the chord progression. It's just 2 measures of E, an E power chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you move to an A power chord for 1 measure, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then move to a B for 1 measure, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is the entire verse. Anytime you play the verse, this is going to be the chord progression, and anytime you play a verse, you're going to do something maybe that's new to you, and that you're going to follow a repeat sign. A repeat sign is just a colon at the end of a certain number of measures that tells you to play those measures again or a certain number of times. If you don't see a little number with an X over it, it's just taken for granted that the repeat sign, the little colon symbol, is telling you to play those measures twice. So in this case, it's telling us to play the verse progression a total of 2 times. So play it once, and then take the repeat sign back and play it again. So you're going to play that E, A, B. That's once, and then play it again anytime you're playing a verse. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to measure A. We're going to measure B. And the reason we use repeat signs is to just keep the music, the sheet music notation or the chord chart, a lot more concise and clean. This could have easily been like a 2 or 3 page chart, but because of the repeat signs, we got to condense this down to just a 1-pager, which is great because you don't have to turn pages as you're playing. And the way you should practice this is, number 1, first off, just memorize where the chords are and the order of them. So E, A, and B. And at first, you don't need to worry about playing with a metronome or playing with the jam track. Just get to where you can switch between those chord locations smoothly, and then start putting it in time in your own time. You know, just kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. You can even use whole notes. Then A, 2, 3, 4. Then B, 2, 3, 4. What you're doing is working on making sure you know exactly what chord is coming up next, and that you can make that transition smoothly at a very slow tempo. Once you can do that, then you can start either, you know, pulling up a metronome at maybe 80 or 100 beats per minute and just working on switching between them. You can use whole notes, but if you're feeling really confident with it, use the quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. A, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. For the chorus of the song, the energy comes up a bit more, so you can dig into the strings a little bit more, and there are a couple of other ways that you can make the energy a little higher. I'll share those with you. You don't have to do them, though. You can stick to just the straight quarter note strumming pattern. The chord progression that you need to memorize for the chorus, though, is just E, 1 measure of E, then 1 measure of B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 measure of C sharp, 1, 2, 3, 4, then one measure of A. 1, 2, 3, 4. So really simple. One measure of E, one measure of B, one measure of C sharp, and one measure of A. Anytime you play the chorus, that is going to be your main chord progression. The first chorus plays through that progression twice. You can tell that by the repeat sign. The second and third courses, however, play through that progression a total of 4 times each. So just keep an eye out for that. And this is something that's really common in the structure of musical songs. Often the second or third course will be what we call double courses. So it's just playing through the course twice. And you can tell you're supposed to play through that progression 4 times in the second and third course because the repeat sign has a little 4x above it. So step 1, just get that progression down. E, B, C sharp, A. And don't worry about doing this in time at first. Just get the transition down and memorize the progression of chords here. With no metronome at first, then once you're feeling comfortable with it, again, you can pull a metronome, maybe 80 or 100 beats per minute. And then when you're ready, once you have everything learned, you'll be primed to be able to play through this progression when the chorus comes around at 100 or 130 beats per minute with the jam tracks. So another thing, one way that I wanted to mention to you that you can change the energy of the song is to mute after every quarter note. And you're gonna, if you're familiar with the Proclaimers at all, you're gonna understand or recognize this when I do it. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, you know, like that, what you can do is mute. And all I'm doing is coming down with my hand and palm muting, but shutting the strings all the way up for every quarter note. But that's just bonus material. I just want to throw in that kind of stylistic thing in there for you as an option if you want. You will see when I play through the entire jam track all the way together, I'll start out very simple with just the quarter notes like this. And then I'll switch to the... And I call that choking the notes. So a lot of people call that choking a chord when you hit it and then just mute it. Just keep that in mind if you hear that as I'm playing along with the jam track when we get there. All right, next thing we need to go over, kind of the last thing, is just the layout of the song or the roadmap. And it's really important that you're aware of this anytime you're learning a new song. And the best way to do this is just listen to a song over and over again. Maybe take some notes on like, okay, verse 1, then it goes to a chorus, then it goes to verse 2, then a chorus, and then a bridge or something else like that. So the roadmap for this song is just a verse, so verse 1, and then you have chorus 1, and then you have verse 2, which is exactly like a verse 1. And then you have chorus 2, which is a double chorus, don't forget that. And then you have verse 3, which is just another normal verse. And then you have chorus 3. And that's a double chorus again. The only difference on chorus 3 to end the song, after the 4th time you play through the progression, you hit another E power chord to end the song off. And it's just a whole note that you hold out. Now, as I mentioned to you earlier, kind of alluded to, I have some jam tracks for you to help you play along to the song and make it fun. I have 2 versions of it. One's at 100 beats per minute and one's at 130 beats per minute. First off, and this will kind of get us into your assignments for this lesson, and then I'll play through the song and show you how to do it. First off, I'd really recommend not using a metronome and just getting the chord transitions down and the chord progressions down to where you know them really well and you can play through them without even having to think about it. From then on, you can go and learn each individual part of the song and then finally put them together with a jam track. I would make sure to do those things before trying to play along with the song, because if you skip them and go right into playing the jam track, it's probably going to be just a frustrating experience for you. Let's get into the assignments for this lesson. Number 1, work on the strumming pattern, the simple quarter note strumming pattern that uses all downstrokes. And if you can do that, you can also try the muted strumming pattern that I'm going to do. I'll do both. I'll start out simple and I'll get more complicated with the muted one as we go along and I play it. Number 2, memorize the power chord locations for the song. So the E, B, C sharp, and the A. Number 3, memorize the progression for the verse. Number 4, memorize the progression for the chorus. Number 5, memorize the song layout. And you may want to pull up the jam track and listen along as you think about and practice the layout for this song. Number 6, play through the entire song with no metronome and no jam track, just so you can work on the transition and make sure you know everything and have it down smoothly. Number 7, play the entire song with the jam track, and you can do it with 100 beats per minute or the 130 beats per minute, whichever one you're feeling comfortable with, and work your way up to the ultimate goal of the one that's at 130. So I'm going to play through the entire song for you now. I'm going to keep it very simple at the beginning, just the straight quarter note downstroke strumming pattern, but I am going to dress it up a little bit here and there as the song progresses. And do your best to stay aware of where you are in the song. You can pull up the song layout and follow along. Be really aware of which part we're on, either the verse or the chorus, which verse or chorus we're on, and then which chord is coming next in the progression that we're using. So I know this is a lot to think about, but like this is the goal that you've been shooting for. This is why you've been working so hard, is to play through songs like this. I know you have to think about your strumming, your fretting hand, what chord is coming next, where you are in the song, your timing, all of these things. But the one thing that will make this easier on you is consistent practice and dividing the challenges up first before putting them together. Just keep that in mind and try to stay as consistent as possible with your practice. If you have any questions at all, you can leave them here in the comments or email me directly, nate@natesavage.com. Also, don't forget, you can go create your account on natesavage.com to go through Guitar Foundations in that more cohesive experience if you like. You can also book a private lesson with me. The first one is complimentary, so make sure you go there and check that out. Also, if you haven't picked up your copy of the ebook for Guitar Foundations yet, make sure you do that. It's a really good companion. It's another way to kind of get this into your brain and absorb all of the stuff we've been talking about. I'll see you in the next lesson. Have fun playing this song.